Hello, my dear friends. Welcome to the show, Jack Chow on East West with G&E TV. Once again, we're talking about election. Speaking of election, it is always a moment, number one, to get to be, sober-minded. Number two, to make sure that you choose the right one. And number three, a little bit, you get excited when you hear some bigger plans, or when you hear something which will make our days better. So today, the show title, as you can see, For Better LAC, for Better LA County, right? So to make that happen, we need lots of new hands. One of them for the 5th District is my good friend, Kathryn Barger. Welcome, Kathryn, to the show.
Thank you for having me back.
Very good.
Pleasure.
To my audience, you're not a stranger because number one, you had been on the show for several times. Number two, on the magazine that we run, City Weekly magazine, you appear several times already, right? And with your beautiful mind that we know where you're heading, all right? Only we did not have time to go into details. We knew generally about your ideology and your concept of LA County, right? But how actually to do the pinpoints is a different story, right? So may I or may we hear something about your details, starting, let's say, area by area, please? Can we?
Sure, absolutely. As I've said, it's been great interviews with you because you've touched on areas that are not only of concern to me, but are of concern to the people within the 5th District.
Exactly, yeah.
And in LA County. Public safety, making sure that we provide adequate resources for our first responders. And that's not just sheriff.
Sure.
That's fire. We've seen the fires taking place
Oh,
up
yeah,
in the hills above Duarte.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of our LA County firefighters for what they did, and for our LA County sheriff's deputies who assisted in doing the evacuations.
All right. Before we touch each of the area, oh, by the way, those areas I want to check with you. Number one being the public health, right? Number two being about our public safety, including fire. Okay, we just seen the big one right now. And number three about our youth programs, and senior programs, and then our veterans, right? Stuff like that, right? One by one. But above all, I would like to hear some update of your campaign situation. Without getting into the office, though, you can't do a thing, right?
Exactly.
So,
I've been so fortunate. As I tell people, this has not been about me. It's been about us. And that's what my campaign has been about, is really with the people. I came in first, June 7th, in the primary.
I see.
Proud of not only the showing, but also of the support that I received. So now I'm going on to the November ballot.
How far are you leading the second position?
I believe I've got about 29.8 to the next closest is 15.3%.
I see.
So
about
it was a wide margin.
Well, a big margin.
It's a big margin, and I'm just it speaks volumes to the campaign that I've run in terms of the people that I've had around me, but also about the fact that people said you need to get out there and see and meet. And I've made it a pledge that while I have Mike Antonivich's endorsement, I'm not going to ride on the shirt tails of Mike. I want to make sure that people understand who I am. And fortunately, the numbers showed that, in fact, I was able to do that.
I see. Probably is a time of talking about women.
Yeah, well.
We shall have probably a woman president, all right? How about a women county supervisor, right? Another time, one more time. Okay, speaking of endorsement though, I know the numbers are daily increasing. So how does it look so far?
For your
endorsement?
For my endorsement, I've been so fortunate. I've just received Don Kanabe's endorsement.
Don Kanabe.
Don Kanabe, who's a county supervisor for the 4th District. So I have Sheila Kuehl, Supervisor Sheila Kuehl, Supervisor Mike Antonovich, Supervisor Don Kanabe, Mike Antonovich, who is my boss. So that one is truly an honor for me because he understands.
He knows you better than anybody else.
He does. He knows me very well.
Okay.
In addition, I picked up the endorsements of Congressman Steve Knight out of the Antelope Valley, as well as Scott Wilk, who's an assemblyman now running for Senate out of the Santa Clarita Valley. So I'm picking up more and more endorsements moving forward. And I take pride in that because I know that I tell each person when I go in and seek their endorsement, I want to earn it. I want to earn it.
And we also know, that, speaking of election, it is always a campaign of fundraising.
Yeah.
What's your fundraising situation, money situation?
We had a kickoff last night, and it was interesting because when I looked in the room, there were probably about 150 people there. Each person, I could have gone through the room and talked about each individual and the impact that they've had on my campaign. So that was our kickoff. I'm hoping to have a strong report first quarter. I began that I want to get it done early because I really want to get back out and really focus on the district because it's so large. Jack, this is the largest district of any 5 districts in the county. And I don't want to be in the office. I want to be out talking to the people, doing my day job, which I'm still Mike's chief of staff. I'm still chief deputy supervisor for Mike Antonovich. But I'm also a candidate. And so it's blending the two, but I still have a day job, a very important day job.
Knowing as much as I know through Michael Antonovich, the culture of his office, and I believe you, the chief of the staff, represents the culture. By that I mean that it is a culture that you feel that you are close to it, you feel that you are one of it, you're not outsider. That is the part I like. That is the nature that I like. And also through the past few times of interview, I get to know her, and I know her ideology and the concept in general. And then we agreed the last time at the ending to touch base with you step by step, area by area, right? And I know that you spend almost a major part of your office time, office hours, in allocating about those funds available for public health care. That's a major part of a county business, right? How do you handle that, and what is your principle in handling that piece?
We have an amazing public health director, Cynthia Harding. She is, without a doubt, one of the best public health directors, I believe, in the country. She provides us with strong recommendations in terms of her need in protecting public health in the community. And because that's not an area of expertise in my background, I know a lot about the policy side, but she is the expert. I listen to her. She has provided an incredible leadership role with the gas company Porter Ranch League out in the San Fernando Valley. And through her efforts, we have been able to ensure that people can move back into their homes and their homes are safe for them to return to. So public health is an important issue, but you're only as good as the people that you surround yourself with. And as you said, in our office, we have a very strong office, a support team that represents Supervisor Antonovich very well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
We also have a very strong team as it relates to the LA County family, as it relates to our department heads.
I know Tony Bell.
Yeah, Tony Bell is our communications
Tony Bell is a big man. He's a big friend of mine.
Yeah, and Tony Bell's father was a congressman.
Oh, was he?
On the west side. Alfonso
was he
Bell.
or is he?
It was.
Oh, was
Passed
he?
away,
Okay.
but Alfonso Bell was a congressman, sitting congressman for much of Tony's young life.
I see. All right. Okay. Very good. So, of course, you as a chief of staff, you're not supposed to get hands-on of each of the particular job, right? But in general, county health, the public health, is a big part of your day-to-day practice, or how should I say, task.
It is. Public health impacts every walk of life in LA County. And it's important to be on top of issues, whether it be tuberculosis, meningitis, the whole issue with the mosquitoes that's coming into the country. It's important to be on top of all these issues. And it can be time consuming, but at the same time, again, because we have strong leadership, we take the lead from our leadership and we facilitate what their needs are based on resources, but also letting the public know issues. For example, stagnant water. Make sure if you've got puddles of water that you take care of that, because that attracts mosquitoes. It's important to be preventive Prevention is the key, and education.
Oh yeah, of course. And education, I know, includes two parts. Number one, about prevention, and number two, to be aware of availabilities, right? So to lots of folks, they do not even know that is or is not available, right? How do you want to emphasize on that part, to educate people, to call them upon you, to come to you, to see if anything is available?
Public health does a lot of outreach in several languages, and they make it a point to go out into communities, especially communities that English is not their first language, and provide literature and information so that people understand what their rights are, what is available, and when we talk about education, how to prevent getting tuberculosis, or how to prevent situations that may compromise your public health. And so it's important that we go out into the communities, because not everyone speaks, English is not always everyone's first language.
And lately I've just heard there's another outburst for, what is that, Zika related?
Yeah, that's the mosquito.
Zika. The Zika related disease that causes the brain defect or something?
Yeah, it is.
How much do we know about that?
Well, we know enough to know that we need to aggressively ensure that it does not spread. It has touched on the United States, so we know it's here.
Is the pandemic now? What?
I don't think it's a pandemic, but I think that it has a potential of being that.
I see.
And so it's important for people to be educated in terms of how to prevent mosquitoes from ending up in your backyard. If you've got a puddle of water that just sits there and you don't even think about it, it's hot, but if it's in shade, it can sit there, and mosquitoes thrive in those conditions. And if you have fountains, it's important to put a little bleach in there periodically to ensure that it's not a breeding ground for mosquitoes.
I see.
It's something that working with the CDC out of Washington, we're all very concerned about it. Very concerned about it.
Okay.
Especially as it relates to young women who are pregnant.
I appreciate very much. And my dear audience, today is one of the discussion talking about how to get job done with my friend Kathryn Barger, candidate for County Supervisor of Los Angeles District 5. I'm sharing her thoughts about how to get job done, to the details, to the points, to the pinpoints, right? Pinpoints being that in this whole area of public health, though, prevention is the key. And speaking of prevention, education is a key of the key. Right? And speaking of education, they're part of the knowledge and parts of availabilities. So we're touching base area by area, block by block, to see how much the woman knows her job. All right. So let's take a very short break. When we come back, we'll move to another area. Please stay with us. Hello, dear folks. Welcome back to the show. My dear fellow Angelenos, welcome back to the show. Jack Chow on the East-West Show with G&E TV, joined by my excellent friend, Barger, talking about her election. No, I call it our election because our county, right? With her involved, that's it. Right? And she is the candidate for the 5th District of LAC, LA County's supervisor. And well, she's not a stranger after all, not to you, to us, and but also not to the job, because she's been on that job, as far as I know, for 28 years. Right? So she is not the one that needs a training, like say, hey, this is the A, that is B, that is C, like that. She can sit there and start working as a county supervisor day one. Like that, if I'm not misreading the picture. Right?
I tell people I can hit the ground running.
Very good. So once again, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me again.
To the point though, we just talked about a little bit about disease prevention with the education involved, which is a big part of what we want to do, right? And now with the outburst of Zika-related disease, right? And this horrible thing, especially those of you who happen to be pregnant, and be careful of that. We need lots of education. There are information available. Please find out on the website. Now, let's move on, right, shall we? And, well, with the public health, we move on to public safety, right? We have to face Mother Nature, we have to face problems, right? Problem being we have perpetrators, we have attacks, all kinds of, including terrorist attack, right? Or lunatic attack, whoever, okay? And then we have fires, right? How do you want to diverse your capability of resources of the county, though, into that area once you take office, please?
As you know, my husband's a retired sheriff's deputy, so
Are you married to one?
I'm married to one, so I know firsthand what our men and women do on a day-to-day basis, things that the public has no idea, which they shouldn't need to know. They need to know that we have the best of the best protecting us on a day in and day out basis. And what's occurring in this world is frightening. What happened in Turkey is incredibly frightening. And we coordinate with all of our first responders throughout the county to ensure that while we hope to be able to prevent it, we need to be ready. We need to be vigilant. And it's just not about our first responders doing that. It's about people being aware of their surroundings.
Of course.
If you see something suspicious,
say something.
Say something.
Yeah, right,
absolutely. And it's important to provide those resources to our public safety partners to make sure that they can do their job. Again, people may not see on a day in and day out basis what they're doing, but I can promise you that the LA County is monitoring the situation constantly.
Okay, those are the conceptual part. We're talking about resources. Do we have enough resources, such as manpower, such as money?
In the
area.
On the hiring, the Sheriff's Department is currently hiring. We are down deputies, which means that we've had through attrition to people retiring and leaving the department. So we are hiring. And
you are hiring.
We are hiring.
Are you taking anybody 50 years plus?
You and I, partners. Right. You'd be great.
Okay,
you'd be good for the image.
All right. You need a commander, though.
Yeah, there you go. Well, you have to start somewhere.
Okay.
So we are hiring, and because we are down deputies, it's clear that we need to hire more. So we are down in terms of people power.
I see.
In terms of resources, we can always give more. You can always use more, but we have kept up with the needs. Sheriff Jim McDonald puts forward his request. We just adopted the budget on Monday for the upcoming year. And the great thing about LA County and our budget is that while we've adopted a budget,
compared to the numbers of last year, though, are we seeing a bigger number, or are we seeing the same number, or are we seeing a much less number?
It's a little bigger. We've increased our
bigger the better.
We've increased our employees by about 1,000.
I see.
And those 1,000 include social workers, mental health. We for homeless, mental health has become an increasingly challenging area for us.
I see.
So the budget is a little bigger. But it's still hovering around $29 billion.
I see. $29 billion.
Yeah.
That's quite a big chunk,
it is
right?
Quite. And Jim McDonald, as I was going to say, he brings forward his request.
$29 billion for the public safety, the whole block?
For the whole, no, for the entire county.
For the entire county.
For the entire county. And if Sheriff McDonald feels that he needs additional resources throughout the year, there's nothing that would stop him from coming to the board and asking for those resources to be allocated. It's, as I tell people, the county is in real time.
In other words, it's kind of allocation and reallocation within the range of $29 billion.
You know, when you create your household budget,
I see.
You know each month what you have to spend. That's what we've done with each department.
Okay,
we have allocated based on need for a whole year.
Sure.
If in that year something happens, for example, the fire.
Sure.
There's nothing to stop the department from coming back and
You're
saying,
right.
We need additional resources.
You're right. In your mind, as a county supervisor, as a supervisor to be, how big is the weight, right? How big is the weight on the balance of the public safety when compared to others?
Well, again, you're talking to someone who really believes public safety is a quality of life issue. So it weighs very heavy for me.
All right.
I believe that people have a right to know that, or people have a right to go out and not be in fear in their community. So public safety is vital. And our Sheriff's Department has done a tremendous job, both with our contract cities, Santa Clarita, Duarte, but also in our unincorporated areas. We have, and I know I'm probably biased, but I think we have one of the best law enforcement agencies in the country.
I see.
With a great sheriff leading.
All right. We're glad if we can end up with somebody who takes public safety as one of the major jobs, the important job. And I understand there are emergency things which you can always kind of prioritize it, right? And on a regular day basis, you're talking about which can wait, which cannot wait, right? Public safety is the subject or issue that cannot wait. It has to be done to the minute. Am I right?
Correct. I mean, you need to provide resources. Every second counts.
I see.
You know, in a fire, every second
Your office
counts.
has been doing so, that I see. So once you take office, you will lead your office doing the same thing?
Absolutely. Working with Mike, we've had fires, the station fire above La Cañada, we've had the mudslides, and so the situations that are coming with the drought and all, I've experienced those, and I don't wish them again, but I'm prepared if something does happen.
The last fire, which is still burning a little bit, Azusa, Duarte area though, was that within your jurisdiction?
Yes, Azusa is Supervisor Hilda Solis, and Duarte is Supervisor Mike Antonovich.
It was Antelope Valley and going north to the national park.
Right, and when it comes to a fire, there is no supervisorial district. It's about getting it done.
I see.
We work very closely with Supervisor Solis's office. The fires merged. One was caused by a car accident, a fatality, and one is still under investigation. And those two fires came together. So when it comes to those type of disasters or emergencies, we work as one, and we support our firefighters who, I saw a picture this morning, Jack, of 6 firefighters sleeping on someone's driveway because they had been working all night.
Yeah.
These individuals are the unsung heroes.
Very touchy picture.
And I, again, am so proud to say that we have the finest working in our county fire, as well as the firefighters dropping the water.
And by the way, it's a moment that I like to share, a moment in my mind I like to share with my audience and with you too. Probably I have a little question to ask. And the other day when we saw the fire to the north part back to our office, and we see helicopters and that's the dropping airplane, the big one, big size, and water dropping, but helicopters flying over and over again. You know the red dust?
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of chemical that is.
It's a retardant.
And they're doing kind of like in a way that you will automatically think, oh my God, we have been calling for a small government all the time. Probably we need a big one at the moment. Okay.
Well, a dear friend of mine is one of the pilots. Mike DeBron.
So being small or big as a government, where do you take?
Well,
in a situation like that.
That is something that I'm proud to say Supervisor Antonovich spearheaded. We lease those planes that are dropping that pink.
The pink, yes, pink.
I call it secret sauce. That is stops the fire line. But in addition, we have a fleet of helicopters that are flown by our sheriff pilots. That the precision on how they do it, they go down, they fly so low, so close to those flames in order to get that water dropped on those flames. And Mike DeBron, who I've known for years, is one of those individuals, and he actually taped it, recorded it, and put it up, and it was on Channel 11. They picked it up, but it gives you a feel for how incredible these people are that are doing this, risking their life,
incredibly brave,
incredibly brave. And I'm not only proud to call Mike my friend, but also proud of the job he does. And I know that the homeowners up there whose homes were saved are equally as grateful.
It was a very convincing moment. At least I feel that way. I believe that lots of my friends, my audience believe that way. I have a friend who just bought a new house within their area. At that very burning moment, she was crying. Said, okay, all right. She was so worried about her house. So, of course, that was ending was acceptable, very happy ending. But the thing is that the concern is that we do need them, need our government to perform at that moment what they did, like we saw, right?
That's what people expect. As I said earlier, it's a quality of life issue. And people that moved up into that area know that they're in a high fire danger area. But at the same time, they also know that resources need to be allocated if, Lord forbid, not their fault, that a fire does occur. And it is a quality of life issue.
It is quality of life. Oh, one little question in this area though, for that expenses, for that the fire control containment practice, that practice itself, the money applied, used in that area for that purpose. So is that within the budget numbers or is that emergency number?
Well, it's within the budget. I mean, they allocate emergency funding.
I see.
And depending upon, for example, the horrible fire up in Bakersfield area, the governor declared a state of emergency. And when people hear that, they wonder, what does that mean? That means that they can seek reimbursement from the state and from the federal government for the cost to fight that fire.
I see.
And so there are different mechanisms that go into play in terms of getting the resources to cover the cost.
All right, this is better that way. But the reason why I'm asking is that I was concerned about, are we burning extra money, right? Or in addition, or now it sounds to be within the budget. We're still, well, okay.
It's a cost.
What's the, it's the cost, right?
It is a cost.
Regular budget numbers.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, and you know, Chief Osby, who's our fire chief, will come forward and give us a breakdown.
Oh, very
but it's considered part of the job. Unfortunately. Unfortunately.
Okay. My audience, my dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, today we're talking about our own county, LAC. I'm joined by my good friend, Kathryn Barger, a candidate for the 5th District as County Supervisor. We're sharing her thoughts, not only by principle to the conceptual, but to the point, to the pinpoint, how to get the job done. We just touched about our 2 areas. Number 1, public health, all right, for which we find out that the prevention would be her tilt when she takes office. And number 2, we're talking about the public safety, in which not only the regular term safety, how we still have to talk about our safety versus fires or wildfires like the one we're having. Okay, now let's take another breakout. When we come back, we'll move on to within the same area about attacks, all kinds of attacks. Stay with us. Hello, dear ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the show. Jack Chow on the East West with G&E TV with my good friend Barger. She is the candidate for LAC Supervisor, and she is within the 5th District. And I call her Supervisor to be because I almost see for sure that there is no suspicion about her victory. Of course. Well, we got to still work out, right?
I'm running like I'm in last place. I'm running. I need every vote I can get.
You still got to run like in desperation.
And I want every vote, so I don't want people to think I got it.
Very good. All right. In order to win the vote, though, you really have to demonstrate about who you are. Correct. Exactly. And to demonstrate how you want to do the job. Like I'm sitting here, I want my audience to see how I handle the conversation. Not only in general about how I allocate each of the time or on each of the subject, and to the details how I raise each of the single question, right?
Correct.
How I respond to your respond, and then to move on to next, and those are the pinpoints.
Yes.
Exactly. You're doing the same thing. Now, talking about public safety, we have problems. We have, of course, we're just now talking about fire. Fire is a big one, and we have attacks, all kinds of attacks. In the wake of the Florida attack and the Istanbul attack, right? So we have a lot to do. So once again, I'm talking about in your mind as a county supervisor to be, how much do you want to weigh on this part?
I think the world has changed, and this is a reality, and every elected official has to be aware of what's going on in this world, and now it's in our country. What happened in Florida was a tragedy, and it spoke volumes to the fact that we live in a society that is far different than the one that you and I grew up in. And as an elected official, we have a responsibility every day to put this as a priority. And it doesn't mean that we let the terrorists win and we live a life of terror. But we have to address the issues facing us related to terrorism. And terrorism is
monetarily, we're talking about expenses. We're talking about efforts, right? So how big a part that takes, or that should take?
It's not just about the county, it's about the state and the federal government.
Of course.
With the federal government taking the lead, they have access to information that I'm sure on a daily basis has changed, that we don't have. That's not to say that Sheriff McDonald is not briefed, but we need to be proactive. We need to prepare.
Yeah,
we need to be aware of the fact that, for example, with the San Bernardino shooting that happened and was an attack on county employees, we in the county took the steps necessary to ensure that our workforce is safe. Can you guarantee 100%? Absolutely not. But there were things we found we could do
You make it as much as possible.
to secure our buildings so that when our employees come to work, they know they're in a safe environment.
All right. Okay. Very good. Very good. And that, of course, a big chunk of emphasis that what we all consider about. And say supervisor to be, she is already starting working on towards that. I know within the range of the $29 billion, was that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a total about $29 billion. Yeah. Well, that number is big to me, but to a county that size is not that very much, right?
It's the county's budget is larger than some states, larger than the state of Rhode Island.
All right. Anyway.
I know. So it is
larger than the state of Ohio. Well, to the size of LA County, though, it's still.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. It's because we represent over 10 million people.
Yeah, you're right. Anyway, so within money, within a number, limited numbers, you really have to allocate it in a way that reflects your smartness, right? And once again, if you go into the problem of attacks, though, there are two kinds of attacks to me. Number one, those attacks created by terrorists, right? And the number two, those attacks created by somebody who suffered from mental disease, right? So mental health problems. So now, we don't want to confuse ourselves that every time when something happens, we get kind of over alert. Hey, this is another attack, terrorist attack. As a matter of fact, it's just a lunatic. That way. So how do you want to, as a supervisor to be, make a distinction between the two so that we have different prevention, different ways of preventions? Well, maybe I read something that the people do not talk about.
Yeah, well, I mean, San Bernardino, there's no doubt in my mind that was driven by someone who was a terrorist. I don't care what anyone says.
All right.
This is a husband and wife who plotted and were part of an organization, and I believe that they are terrorists. The mentally ill, there is no question that they should not have access to firearms. And there are laws in the books right now that require that to be the case. We need to do more to strengthen our mental health system. And it's not just about money, Jack. It's about looking at our existing laws. And I believe in due process, 100%. But I also recognize that there are individuals that do not know right from wrong because of their mental illness and are not provided with the opportunity to get on medication that will help them lead a productive life. So with the mentally ill, we need to do more, especially when it comes to gun violence. We need to enforce the existing laws on the books as it relates to guns.
In other words, you are in support with me to distinguish those group of people from the rest of the other attacks.
Absolutely.
Don't confuse them, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, in Florida, I'm still waiting, but I believe this was an individual that was as mentally ill as he was someone who really did prescribe to this terrorists thought, because it was almost like a copycat, and targeted, and it was a hate crime. It was a hate crime. I don't care what anyone says.
Yes,
It was a hate crime, and it makes me sick to know what took place.
All right. You just now mentioned something about gun control area, though. You're proactive with gun control?
I am support.
Or gun rights.
I'm in support of gun rights, but I believe that we need to do a better job of enforcing laws on the books, because we can create more laws, but if you're not enforcing them, they're only as good as the paper they're written on. And it can't be episodic. It can't be every time we have a tragedy, we revisit this issue. We need to look at what are we doing today. And in California, we have the strictest gun control. What are we doing to ensure that we are enforcing those laws? Because guns are getting into the hands of people through illegal means.
All right, good. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, what does surprise me is that somebody who married to a sheriff, county sheriff, and is talking about gun control substances, right? We must clarify the whole thing. We're not talking about a ban of gun rights.
And I think people get caught up in this gun control. That must mean you're against people's rights. I have a healthy respect for a gun.
I see.
I live with a man who has spent his life
with a gun.
On the street with a gun.
With guns, yes.
He takes precautions regarding that. He is very responsible.
You see.
For the most part, people are responsible who have guns, gun safes, and take responsibility for that.
So in other words, as a supervisor-to-be, you are in support of inserting some restrictions to situations that you may try to prevent those lunatics, those mental ill people to get hold of a gun.
Well, what I'm saying is that yes, to the extent that I believe there are laws on the books right now, and again, California has one of the strictest gun control.
Yeah, we know, strictest.
And we need to enforce the existing laws. We need to ensure that background checks are done. And these are things that everyone's agreed to. These are things that both sides agree are necessary. And I don't believe that you should ban guns. I do believe in the Second Amendment. But at the same time, we need to be responsible. If we're going to create these laws, it should not be episodic based on something tragic that happened. This should be something that is done, not in response to a tragedy. We need to enforce what's on there. Because if you create new laws and you do not enforce them, all you're doing is almost being patronizing.
In other words, you kind of like not emphasize to chase the momentum, right? Say, hey, right now I'm going to do it. You wake up only one event or instant. It is a regular job, ongoing job.
And there are laws on the books, Jack, and that's what I keep saying is, what are we doing to ensure that the existing laws on the books are being enforced? Are we holding people accountable? Instead, we're looking at increasing the laws. And not taking into consideration that there are laws that are not being enforced. And it frustrates me because then you have additional laws and there's a false sense of security when in fact there isn't. And it's created a real angst amongst society.
In other words, there are laws to be followed and there are laws to be made in future. Right now we're talking about we check our books, see if laws are followed.
But I wish we could have a healthy discussion on this.
Okay, very good.
And instead it's become us against them. And I don't think that is healthy. I think that our country is sick and tired of the posturing taking place on issues.
Oh, you're right.
On issues. and fill in the blank of what that issue is.
You're right,
and nothing is getting done. I'm about solving problems, not people.
Very good.
And as a county supervisor, my tenure with Mike and the working that I've done, the working situations that I've had with the other board members are about getting things done.
All right, I like that
we
philosophy.
We talk it and we walk it.
I like it. I like it. I like that philosophy. Dear audiences, with the Kathryn Barger, the candidate for the 5th District of LA County as Supervisor, we're sharing her thoughts on how to pinpoint the problems, how to get the job done. So let's take a very short moment out. When we come back, we'll touch other areas, please. Hello, dear folks. My dear fellow Angelinos, welcome back to the show. It's a discussion, as a matter of fact. It's a sharing of her beautiful mind. Kathryn Barger, candidate for the 5th District of LAC as Supervisor. All right, Supervisor to be. Let me try to advance a little bit. Okay, now, this is the 3rd or 4th show with discussion with her. I'm really trying to get to the very, very bottom, to the denizen of it, in her thoughts, to see how she will handle her job once elected, right? And it looks like she's getting very close. She's got 25-something above percent of the vote, whereas the second place got 13-15 range, all right? And that is very good, but it's not a secured situation. Am I right?
Absolutely correct.
And so you have to work on, we have to work on, if you decide you like her. Well, of course, depends on you. Now, we're talking about her touching base with all the different areas, the area being public health, the area being public safety, and versus the attacks of Mother Nature, and versus the attacks of perpetrators, plus the terrorism attacks, right? Okay, now, the last area, of course, even for the gun control, that we can talk for a whole day, right? I want to just to cut the chase to it, move to the next one, and children programs. We understand education is the key, right? Even to public safety, start early education is also a cure, because last time you mentioned that, right? How do you want to stretch the attention to cover that area with attention, with the emphasis, with the money, to make sure it works in the long run, please?
Again, we're coming full circle because we talk about public health and it's about prevention and education. When you talk about our youth and keeping them out of trouble, it's about prevention and education.
Yeah, we go like a circle,
exactly,
we go back.
Exactly, and there's a common theme. And in this budget that was just adopted on Monday, we've allocated additional resources for a program called Parks After Dark. And what that is investing in programs in our recreational areas of our parks.
What is it called?
It's called Parks After Dark.
Oh, Parks After Dark.
And it provides services for our youth who, especially during the summer when school is out, don't know what they're going to do, and they hang out, and idle hands are the devil's workshop. And it's important to provide them with opportunities to do recreational activities that will keep them out of trouble. And so it's investing in prevention and education and supporting the community, supporting families. There are families that cannot afford to send their kids to Disneyland. I mean, Disneyland is, I think, as expensive as I can remember it. And so they need to have opportunities within their community so that their children have things to do.
It looks that there are two jobs. Number one, try to prevent them being victims, right? And job number two, trying to prevent them to become a perpetrator sometime down the road.
Yeah, I mean, our goal. No one wants to see a child locked up in our camps, in our probation halls, in our juvenile halls. So it's important for us to try to touch their lives as early as possible, so that they don't end up in our jails at an older age.
Yeah, of course.
And it's a constant struggle, because there is, resources are stretched, but we have been successful in doing that, and we target areas in the community where we feel that resources are necessary, and we work with our public safety partners to identify those areas where there's more likely to be a spike in crime. And we really encourage these kids to stay out of gangs, to get involved, get an education, get your high school diploma, go on, do whether it be technical, training or higher education, do it, because that will take you out of the situation that you may have grown up in.
Speaking of Michael Antonovich, that I've been following for many years, ever since I was on the job, though, there are two programs that his office is doing. Of course, you were involved with 28 years of those years, right? Number one is a program called the Gun Collections, Gun Surrender something. And number two, his program of Pet of the Day, Pet of the Week, something. One trying to eliminate the problem, the prevention, proliferation of the problems that may go out, right? And the other try to create love, right? So if that has to be a kind of legacy or culture of the office, though, how much do you want to continue with that, please?
Well, all three of my animals came from Pet of the Week. So every week when the supervisor brings in an animal, I always get nervous because, you know, I become attached to them, and I've been able to walk away so far, but I'm feeling a dog in my future. I will absolutely keep going with that program.
Honestly, I like those two types of programs. In between, there are many, but these two.
It's been incredibly successful. Every dog, cat, horse, rabbit that's come before the board has been adopted, I'm proud to say. And that is a program that I will keep going, because it's about educating the public about the fact that while you can go out and buy a purebred and spend thousands of dollars, we have incredibly loving animals, dogs,
and you can adopt
in our
you
shelters
can adopt for
that
free.
need a home. And I can tell you, as someone who adopted a puppy, she is the most wonderful animal, and they know when they've been saved. And I have every day I'm grateful for.
So you have adopted three of them.
2 cats and a dog. Yes, I have.
Two cats and one dog.
And I love them all, and they are wonderful, wonderful pets. As far as the gun collection. That is important, because
gun surrender. We call it surrender.
You do have individuals that will find or come across, maybe through a family member who passed away, guns that they don't want, and they don't know where to take them. These guns are brought through the sheriff's department, and they're transferred up to an area where they're melted down. It's been very successful, and we will continue to do that. It's important because, like prescription drugs, you don't know where to
surrender with an exchange of a gift certificate or something, right?
We do have partners that will provide incentives for those that
incentives, yes.
And what you will find, though, is a lot of people don't come for that incentive. They come because they really didn't know where to go to get rid of their gun. They just knew they didn't want it in the house.
And no questions asked.
No questions asked. They run serial numbers. I mean, you have to be wise about what you're taking in. So they will run the serial numbers to see, to make sure that this gun was not stolen or something like that.
Right.
But it's purely bring them in, no questions asked.
I see. So these programs, they're at both ends. All right, one try to control our weapons on the street, the other to create love since early age. That's really something like, even though 180 degrees from each other, yet they belong to the same area.
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, that's what the county is about.
Yeah,
On
any
given day, you've got you've got incredible programs, a music center. I mean, the county touches every person's
I was saying
life.
earlier, as a legacy or a culture, you want to continue with that, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I love the county. I mean, the
see.
county truly is a remarkable place.
Speaking of surrender, though, there's one other program, probably is also LAC, LA County program, called the Baby Surrender or
Safe
something?
Surrender, which was spearheaded by Supervisor Don Knabe.
The infantry, surrender
you can
something?
go to a fire station or hospital and no questions asked, surrender your baby if you're facing difficult times. And this came in response to people that were abandoning their babies in dumpsters and things.
Yeah, instead of finding them in the trash bin, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so Don Knabe actually spearheaded that, and I know one of our county employees who happened to want to adopt has the first baby that was surrendered in LA County. when Don Knabe launched this.
All right. In addition to 5 years he earned jail time, though, he did something good, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We have to be realistic.
Absolutely.
Good is good, bad is bad.
Yeah,
so we call a spade a spade.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Absolutely.
That's a good program that I like.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm asking is because once I wrote about a program, and I interviewed a lady. Her name, last name, Opal. No, Opal Singleton. Okay. She's the book writer of one big program called the. It's about the human trafficking problems, where she mentioned about that that project of a program that we just mentioned about the baby surrender thing. That I find it very positive, right? So. Now today, with my good friend, the Kathryn Barger, candidate of 5th District of LAC, LA County Supervisor, I'm sharing her beautiful thoughts about pinpointing problems and about problem resolving. All right. It looks like she not only has the experience of the past 28 years, but also she is prepared for her office once elected. In those different areas. She is ready, number one, to continue with the legacy, with the culture. Number three, there is lots of big room to create new programs, right? Okay. Now for that, I want to wrap up, but we are not done yet. Looking into the month into November, and probably we'll pick another time, somewhere around September or October, to see how things went, right? So. My dear audience, thank you for watching, and to you, Barger, thank you very much for coming and for sharing.
Thank you for having me. I love coming on here and talking to you about issues.
Wish you good luck.
Thank you.